So here we are at Abbey Road in London.
Hi everybody, hope you're doing marvellously well. I'm here with the lovely Mr. Sean McGee. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Now we both lived in the same town at one stage.
It would appear so, yes.
Yes.
And in the dark North Hampshire.
According to my fact file here, you started producing electronic music in your home studio.
Many years ago.
Good. That's where we like to start. Many
years ago.
So, give us a little bit about your journey, because I mean, you started here in 1995.
Yep.
And you said Jacobs in '94. So.
Yeah, I mean, prior to that, I was a design engineer, contracts manager. I was working for a piling and subsidence repair company, and we go around and fix people's houses that were sinking into the ground.
Oh.
And unfortunately, the bottom fell out of the market really, and the whole world went into
There's a pun in there. Subsiding.
Very good.
Bottom fell out of the market. Yeah.
Yeah. So the world went into recession, and I got made redundant. So I was out of work for about 3 years or so.
You've been making music then on a kind of a hobby.
Yeah.
Doing electronic music at home.
So after a couple of years of, I just, it was great to wake up in the morning, didn't have to go to work, dole check will arrive, and then you sit there with your computer and then...
Atari?
No, I had a PC actually, and then moved on to an Atari. A few keyboards, a little Mackie mixer, pair of speakers, bag of weed, as you do, as was the thing then.
During the era of the period.
Yeah, and then after a few years, I was thinking like, Jesus, I'm getting, in my 30s now. I'm 31 years old. I really need to do something, otherwise I'm going to become unemployable because of my age, sort of thing. And then so I took a sound engineering course, got government finance for it, and went to Jacobs. Part of it was work placement, right? So you do a few months in the classroom and then you go in. So we use the facilities at Guildford University there. You get a work placement, and then usually a work placement may or may not work, but you're already there. So Jacobs didn't work out, and then I got a placement here because a couple of other people that were on my course were placed here, and so there's a job going in studios, perchance. And then I applied for that. I didn't get that, but they then rang me up a couple of weeks after that and said, "There's a job in post-production going. You might be able to use that to go into studios as a way in, sort of thing." It's like, oh, okay. Didn't have to ask me twice. And then I came here. My first day, I saw people cutting records. They give you a tour of the building, sort of thing, and I was like, oh, I must do that. And then that was it. And 27 years later, I'm still here. So.
Well, that's good. That's good to see.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you know anything about mastering though when you arrived here?
Never even heard of it. In fact, it wasn't even touched on in the course I did.
Interesting.
Yeah, nobody knows about it. It's really weird. I think people are under the impression that the audio just magically appears on the record somewhere. Osmosis, and things like why do your start marks on your CD always pick up at the beginning of a thing? It's just like, well, it's obviously magic, but that's actually mastering. But I learned all about forensic audio. I learned all about live audio, corporate audio, recording, mixing. Mastering was never touched on, not once. Mad.
Interesting.
But then you see it happening, and it's just like, we'll just do that.
So did you come here like at an apprentice level, and then they took you through all the different things?
I came in as a copy engineer, so a transfer engineer, in this room, funny enough, and my job was to transfer audio from any source to digital formats, i.e. mainly DATs and CDs, CDRs. So it'd be like, here you go, here's Iron Maiden's new album. Can we have 70 DATs, please? And you'd be sitting there at night, pressing the button to make because they were real time in those days. Very busy room. Yeah.
So sort of reading through your credits and interviews and stuff I could find, uses latest digital gear, but then at the same time, you do a lot of vinyl cutting.
Yep.
So obviously people would associate lovers of vinyl to be very analogy and old school.
Yeah.
But that you are, you know.
Well, it depends on what I'm using the piece of digital gear for, isn't it?
Yes, that's what
Do you know,
where I was
so
going.
I cut vinyl records from all kinds of sources.
Right.
Some of them I'm cutting from old analog tape. They may be like a 1950s or 1960s recording, and it may be required that I cut from the tape and not go through any digital device. So I do that. Or I get given files, like you can see on the computer, the WAVs, and they are digital by things. So you're then cutting from a digital device. So it's just whatever it comes on. Some people will balk at the idea of anything digital happening to something, but if it's digital ready, you have no choice in the matter. And at the end of the day, there's no rules. It's what comes out the other end, isn't it? Really.
Absolutely.
And a lot of audiophiles will crucify me for saying that, but it's the truth, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's what comes out the other end.
Ollie, talking to Ollie, he was like, as far as the vinyl, you should be talking to Sean about it. So is that something you're incredibly passionate about?
It's one of my favourite parts of the job. It's a part of the job that when you do it, you're not able to rush it because it has to be real time. You have no choice in that matter. And it makes you take your time because you've got to put the tape on the machine, you've got time for it to rewind, as opposed to digital where it's just like bang, 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 bang. Everything is, high speed, copy this, 52 speed, here you go, done an album in an hour. The words fail me. but
No.
but it's horses for courses, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll when mastering an album, for instance, if it's coming from analog, I'll use digital equipment on it. Because, if I think like, well, that's the piece of equipment that's going to give me the thing I want, then I'll just use it. There's no sort of like, well, I can't possibly do that unless I've been specifically requested not to.
Do you find a lot of mastering engineers tell me that digital is great for the detail stuff, if they want to really get in there and affect stuff?
In mastering, you can't be really detailed. You have a left and a right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you want to home in on the guitar, everything around that guitar goes with it. Yeah, you can't just like make the snare louder. You make the area of the snare louder. So when I listen to a mix, and then the thing I'm listening for is it too dark? Is it too bright? Is it too lumpy? Is it defined enough? Is it dull? That sort of thing. Not like, oh, well, I could just raise the kick up a little bit and do that. That's mixing. I can't do that easily.
But for like correctional stuff, if you feel like...
I mean, you can, but it's much. It's like, oh well, we'd like the vocal we'd like a vocal up version, but we didn't do one. Can you make the vocal louder? And it's like, well, no, not really. I can make the area of the vocal louder, but the consequence of that is everything else in that area goes with it, not just the vocal. So then you're better off to go back to the person and say, can you just open your mix up in your Pro Tools and push your fader up a little bit? And then the job's done, isn't it? It's much easier. Because otherwise you're in that, you start to delve into that realm of turd polishing, I think is probably yeah, because it's just like, oh well, can you go in there and get your MS going and move this about and do that? And it's like, well, no, you can, but you shouldn't. Get your mix right. Go back to this. Get your mix right, unless you can't. That's my philosophy, anyway.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, good mixes means good mastering.
Now, another note I have is that you love and use the TG 12410. That one.
This
Yeah.
kind of that. Yeah.
That's something you really feel.
I wouldn't say I'm passionate about it, but
Right.
it's been the mainstay of my room and Abbey Road's mastering rooms since 1973, is it? 72, 73. So it's all I know. And it does everything that it's supposed to in a very nice and gentle way. And then we team it up with more modern pieces of gear, both transistor as well as valves, because valves are fun.
Let's just say everybody loves the sound of the equipment. There's romanticism behind it. Is there something that you love specifically about it? You think is really unique?
It's musical.
Right.
I don't think for any stretch of the word, it's in imagination, it's transparent. It certainly isn't.
Right.
but then again, it shouldn't be. I think the curves of the EQA, the frequency dispersals, are interesting. They're not standard, and the frequencies are all they're just all musical. And you know, it's a bit of pride in the thing because it was designed here and built by us. Yeah, it's been going for 50 odd years, and apart from having new power supplies, there's nothing really much that goes wrong with it.
Lovely. And are you using the limiting on it as well?
No,
No?
I can't stand it. Yeah, apart from the limiting, I'm not a fan.
So
of
if you need to limit, what do you use?
it. Well, I would use this probably.
The Manley Verimue?
Yeah. Limit and compression. But again, it's just like, well, and it depends which limiting. You know, so there's limiting and compression, and then there's making it loud. Yeah, so I would add compression because compression is doing what I want it to, and then afterwards I would make it loud, and then for that I would use a digital limiter. And quite frankly, it doesn't really matter to us which one you use. You're making something go into over level, and you're forcing distortion, forcing it into clipping, and then hopefully it rounds everything down in a sensible manner so it's not offensive. So yeah, that's that sort of limiting. I would use FabFilter plugin. You know, it's high speed. It does the job very well with a minimal amount of distortion. But normal limiting, I would try and use analog. This one particularly because it's really nice and flexible. Yet it's not very precise. You know, it's like the Manley's EQ. It's like each division here. They say that it's not 1, 2, or 3. It's just dB. It's just like, well, it depends on what the Q is.
Right.
On the dispersal and stuff like that. That's what I like about it.
My personal experience with the Verimue is it's really good at taming high end before anything else. I feel like it tucks in that high end in a really pleasing way.
I love it as well with the you put in the sidechain thing out, so you basically 110 hertz and below doesn't affect it, which is really great. And unlinking, I love doing that. You unlink the left and the right, so the compressors are working just slightly different, depending on what's going on, and it makes it all sort of balloon out. And plus, you get the chaos of whatever the valves are doing. You know, that's what I like. There's no ratio. There's no sort of like, oh, I'll do it 5-1. It's just like, well, how much you just pump into the valves, and whatever they do. It's great.
So can you tell us a little bit about this beautiful Neumann lathe?
Yeah, built in 1980, I believe. It's a VMS 80. I think the 80 is the year. It's a lacquer lathe. It is a very early one as well, apparently. It's got quite an early serial number. It cuts at 33, 45. Wiggly line into plastic. Music comes out. What's not to love? We use sapphires to cut with. I don't know. What sort of thing do you want to know?
I mean, when did you start on it? Did you?
I joined in 95.
Yep.
I got the mastering engineer job in 97. 96 to 97, I was kind of learning cutting as well as editing, etc., etc. So I've been using this one since about 97.
This particular machine?
Yeah, this is the only machine I've been using, and a metal lathe when I used to work in room 5 at nights.
So you know this very, very well?
Oh, yeah. This is my baby.
It's an old friend.
Yeah. Not bad for something that's, it's only 50 years old, isn't it? Bloody hell.
How often are you cutting?
Of late, i.e. the last several years, I would say about 70% of my work is vinyl cutting. And it never went away. It was when I first started in 95, 96, it was in the middle of the club thing. So, it's club DJ 12 inches, and it was just insane. In fact, the only reason I got the mastering job was because there was so much work that the other two mastering rooms couldn't cope with it. So they decided to turn this room, which was the copy room, into a mastering room. Anyway, that aside, it's just gone like that. exponential. And now it's probably, I don't know, maybe the market's been flooded, but it's just got busier and busier and busier and busier. And now the labels are doing what they did when the CDs first came out. It's just like throw everything onto vinyl, onto CDs, and now the exact opposite is happening, where they're throwing everything onto vinyl, everything, which is quite amusing.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
Keeps you busy.
Yeah, bloody right. It'll keep going for a good while longer, I think. I mean, these pieces of equipment, say they're almost bulletproof. The only thing that really stop it would be if the single lacquer manufacturer that's left in the world decided to stop doing it.
That's what Jeff was concerned about.
Yeah, because there were two, Transco, which were over in Santa Barbara in America, and MDC, who are Japanese, and the one in America burnt down.
Well, when did that happen?
Oh, a few years ago. Factory burnt down.
Wow.
Disintegrated completely, and then they just thought, we're just not doing it anymore. Yeah, sorry, expletive. They just thought, we're not doing it anymore. Yeah, so
That's rather worrisome, isn't it, to say the least?
yeah, and I think they probably looked upon it as a blessing, because they ended up being, Transco ended up being the world's biggest supplier of lacquers. A good while ago, in the about 2009, 2010, MDC changed their formula a little bit, and they didn't cut as well. But Transco had changed their formula a bit, and they cut better. So everyone went on to Transco because they were less problematic, and I think they had problems keeping up with the demand, because it got more and more, the actual quality got more and more flaky at times, sort of thing. So, but now, we're left with these guys, and so far, touch wood, something like that, they'll keep going for at least another 10 years? 10 years? No, yeah, that'll take me to retirement.
That's what you're hoping.
I'm thinking selfishly, because it's there's only a few hundred of us in the world that do this. If it was just CDs on digital, we'd be, it's a thing that sets you apart from other mastering engineers, is the fact that you do this, because you have to come here to do this. You have no choice.
That's incredible. Yeah. So Bowers, these are your main monitors?
Yeah, these are beautiful. I love these. These are 800D Series 3s. We've had them in here since about November, I think, of last year. Just kind of living with them, because we had Series 1s before this, which were lovely. But these are next level, very much so. Detail imaging, ridiculous.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And you before this you had Bowers as well.
I've had Bowers in here for 27 years.
Oh, so they're what you know well.
Yeah. I mean, even at home, I listen to everything on Bowers.
You have these at home. Well, that's
Not these. Good God, no! You'd drive you mad, wouldn't they? You could hear too much sometimes. But yeah. I've got a small pair of 603s at home, which are enough for me. But yeah, Bowers and Wilkins have had a relationship with Abbey Road since forever. Certainly, when I started, all the rooms had Bowers, and I think on EMI Classics releases it had mastered Abbey Road on Bowers and Wilkins speakers, so it was a symbiotic type thing. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, do you partake in the Abbey Road online mastering?
I do.
Marvellous.
I do indeed. What do you want to know about it?
Well, we spoke to Jeff a little bit about it. He said he enjoys it a lot. He said a big thing for him was the fact that you get one free kind of recall.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you look at it in essence, it's the same as normal mastering session. The guy will come in, or not, and you do your bits and pieces, and then he gets to recall it if it's that part's normal in any situation. But I think the great thing about it is it gets people into the studio that wouldn't otherwise be able to, just simply because of logistics. I mean, an online one, the most remote one I've ever done was a rock band who were stationed in the middle of the Amazon jungle. I couldn't tell you which little town it was, but they were, they had when the generator was working, they could get their mixes done, kind of thing. And it's just like, well, they wouldn't have ever, been able to come to Abbey Road, surely not. But the fact that they can go online from the Amazon, and then you could upload your tracks, get them done, get a professional job done, and get them back within a reasonable amount of time. It's good, isn't it?
That is wonderful. Yeah, they get to work with a world-class mastering engineer in Abbey Road.
And the range of music that you get is quite amazing, really. And some, they're like, oh, that's interesting. They sort of make get quite taken aback, both sonically as well as musically. It's just like, oh, hang on a minute, there's an awful lot of talent out there, awful lot. Quite wonderful.
Marvellous. Well, Sean, thank you ever so much.
Pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for watching. Leave any comments and questions below. So long, farewell, au revoir, adios, goodbye.